Good evening and welcome into a late night edition of the Christmas break version of the R&R Sports Report. Our titles are getting longer and longer and our energy levels are getting lower and lower. My name is Randy Isbell. With me as always, Robert Hagan. Robert, man, how's it going?
Dude, you and I talked about this earlier. Our schedule this week is a mess. As I just rushed in, you texted me 10 minutes ago, "Where are you at?" I'm like,
I didn't say where you
"Listen,
are. I'm
I'm
just
like,
curious if you're close.
I was close, but it
Yeah.
just crazy. And both of us had basketball last night. I just
Yes.
finished up with Clarkson's first wrestling duel. We'll talk about that here in a couple minutes. I just watched probably one of the craziest 106-pound weight class matches, and how it started differed from where it finished. We'll
Oh,
talk
yeah.
about that in the local sports. But, you know, we got basketball tomorrow night. I got basketball Saturday night, or Friday night, basketball Saturday. Basketball, I found out now, Monday afternoon. So,
Hey, as long as
gonna
it's not Tuesday, because we're not
no.
messing up our schedule. So yes, our week has been really crazy. Mine not as much going forward. I finally hit the end of my finals for the finals week yesterday. So I am now officially on break and just waiting to see where grades fell and where all of that goes. Like you said, had the Lewiston basketball on Tuesday. I don't do road games right now, so I don't have to worry about Thursday and Friday, which would have been a big pain that they're doing boys on Thursday and girls on Friday, both up at
Mhm.
Sandpoint. So I'm off as far as basketball goes until a Vista tournament. So I'm excited for a little breather before January hits and we see what happens there. And then February gets nuts for sure. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, next week, unless Robert screws it up, which it looks
No.
like he got close. We will be back on our normal time, Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time. It will be online only as we are now in the winter break period. And then the week after that, I don't know. It's a Vista tournament. It's going to be crazy. We will find time to do the show. Hopefully on Tuesday, hopefully between Lewiston plays at 9 a.m. and 10:30 in the morning. Clarkson is what, 5 and 7 or something? What?
Tuesday, 6 and 7:30.
6 and
So
7:30. So we've got like a 6-hour window in there that we could fit
It might be
in a
it might
show.
be an
So
afternoon it might be an afternoon one, and what's cool is, I'm gonna lead in with a little bit of a trailer. We do have our guest for next week figured out, a Vista chairman and a Vista tournament, director, Mike Tatko will be joining us next week. We'll talk a little Vista, we'll talk, Idaho State officiating, and so he'll be joining us. But he suggested, well, why don't we do it at LC? We'll do it in the gym, whether or not we go upstairs, find an empty room, talk to Matt or Alicia. We'll figure. I know Alicia will be on vacation, but
we'll figure it
maybe
out.
maybe we'll sit up in the corner and watch basketball and do
Either
it.
we'll sit in the corner or we will go sneak into the studio and do the show. Nobody
Yeah.
will be there. Either way, we will make the show work during the Vista week after Christmas. Oh, I'm so excited for the Vista tournament. I had one of the girls basketball players on as my color person for the boys game, and we were able to talk about that, and just her excitement got me going. I'm ready. Vista tournament's always fun. I mean, it's honestly only second to me to the Golden Throne
I
as
will
far as
not.
exciting basketball here in the Valley.
I will tell you, I heard a little rumor last night. We were still. I finished up the bracket early last week, on Saturday, after some meetings with Shannon Wilson, getting that squared away. But a little rumor tonight, as I went into the wrestling, we have a couple of teams that have now found interest in coming and playing. So some of the teams that got added in might change again. We will find that out here in the next few days. So
I can't do more change. No
I
more
know
change, please.
I can't
It's
either.
everything's
Between
going on, and honestly, so I'll tell you what. Obviously, anybody who's listened to the show over the last couple months knows that I also work at the Lewiston Tribune. I got done with the girls at basketball Lewiston games last night. Went right down to work to get the calls in from the other games. There were 25, 26 maybe scheduled basketball games for both the boys and girls. Do you know how many actually got played yesterday?
I do know of Kamei that got canceled with Lapway. That one I do know. You and I were both part of a couple of
That was
games.
one of 16 games,
Wow.
I do believe. 14 to 16 games that were canceled yesterday, whether it was referee shortages, weather conditions, or COVID. It was the triple threat. We had so many games crossed out just from we actually don't have to cover it. So it's that time of year, whether it's flu season, so COVID is striking hard, which we'll get to with the professional sports, or the weather is getting insane. I don't know how many times over the years that basketball schedules get completely flipped around because one team just can't leave. So we will see how all that goes. So we will get into the local sports here soon. But let's get into week 14 of the NFL, as once again, neither of us are happy about the NFL on week 14. And I will go first just because I will get it out of the way. It's the old Jets motto, JETS, just in the season. I sent you a stat that Baltimore's up there as well, but the Jets have been hit by more injury issues than any other team by far. Like, was it like 50% of their roster?
Something like that. It was a crazy number.
Set with injury and injury changes, and that's not good when you're so young with a new head coach, a rookie quarterback, and everything changes every single week. I mean, just go look at the receiving core that was there last week. It was Jamison Crowder and a bunch of nobodies. Keelan Cole, I guess, was played a little bit, but other than that, Braxton Berrios, I think, was the leading receiver.
Right.
That seemed like last year with Sam Darnold and the issues of not having any targets, and you have running backs that are awful. It's just a bad game. Listen, Zach Wilson played horrible. He made some terrible decisions. Wasn't letting go of the ball near soon enough. Was not getting it to the right people. It's just to that point now where I was hoping to see improvement. The injuries are making that nearly impossible. So let's just get through these last couple weeks, get everybody healthy, hopefully get a decent free agent or two, and hopefully have 2 top 10 draft picks and have some fun with it. But for right now, just end the season already.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. You had sent me that, and I kind of laughed and chuckled about it. But you guys are sitting right now, 16 players out on the IR. It's just crazy. We're right there with you, though. We've got 18. We're number 2. You're sitting number 4 with injuries this year, and it's just crazy to think what some of these teams are going through and how bad it's affecting us. So, and with the same thing, I'm going to lead right into mine. I mean, it's the same thing as the injuries. We're barely hanging on. Lamar goes out, gets hurt, high ankle sprain. They're saying that he will play against Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. We'll talk about that later, but it should happen. But you lose pretty much all of your running backs. You've lost now, 3 defensive backs that are starters that could start on any other team. It's just crazy to see what has happened. And I'm just waiting for him to start shuffling guys around that play nickel to start playing defensive back on a regular basis.
And listen, everyone is going through injury issues. So here we are just complaining about our teams. Every team goes through it, especially right now. And then you add in all the COVID issues that are going around the league, and it's going everywhere. We had our first NBA postponement of the season yesterday. I think the NHL had their 7th and 8th postponements of the season yesterday as well. It was funny.
We have one tonight.
Do we have one tonight too?
NCAA, UCLA, number 4 UCLA now had to postpone against Alabama.
Had the Washington Gonzaga game too that got postponed or canceled. I guess I'm sure they won't make that up. But it was funny. Again, working at the Tribune, I do the scoreboard for the Tuesday paper, and it was weird taking the standing sheet from 8 a.m. because there was one scheduled hockey game and it got canceled. So there was no change to the schedule. So they never released a new one. So it's a mess out there. And you add in all the injuries, and it's getting to the point now that it's just who can survive as far as these teams that are hanging on to playoff positioning. And that's with Baltimore too. You just said you get a tough game against the Green Bay Packers. I don't see you guys winning that game. I mean, you definitely could. The NFL has been weird this year, but all of a sudden, that loss gets you to 8-6, and now playoffs become an if, not a win.
100%, and that's the thing. But you said it. It's been any given Sunday, So with anything happening, I was looking prior to heading down to the high school tonight when we were doing our picks. We've got 5 different picks this week. We'll talk about that here shortly, but doing our picks for next week, and some of those games that we pick different is a coin flip. And then that's where we were at with them. So it'll be interesting to see where some of these games play out. I mean, the NFL advantage might be the only thing that Baltimore's got going for this week.
And has that even proved worthy? So many teams have been playing so good on the road. You just look at the standings right now. The Patriots 6-0 on the road. The Arizona Cardinals 7-0 on the road. It's a weird year.
Oh yeah.
The funny thing is, it's been so tough to do these picks because you have to not be a victim of the moment and go, oh, well, this team lost last week, so now they're struggling and now they're going to lose the next week, because you just never know. The Cincinnati Bengals are a pure example of that. They get completely blown out one week, then they crush the Chargers, and then they go out and lose in overtime to a decent 49ers team. So then when I was getting to their pick, which I'm trying to remember who they play on Sunday, the Broncos, I have no idea which Bengal team's going to show up, which Denver team's going to show up. Those are the kind of games, and why this season has been so just Fruit Loops, that anybody that goes, I know exactly what's going to happen, is completely either fooling you or fooling themselves.
And listen, it's the first week too. The first game of the week too. I mean, it's a coin flip. The way Kansas City, Kansas City's been hot over the last few weeks, but it's the same boat. I mean, which team are we going to get? Are we going to get the Patrick Mahomes and the CEH that played this last week? Or are we going to get a team on the road where Justin Herbert is going to come out of his shell with the Chargers? So, I mean, anything can happen, especially in that AFC West. Kansas City's now got the 1-game lead, but it's a whole different ball game next week.
They have that 1-game lead, but if the Chargers win, they'll have the same record, and the Chargers would have swept them this year.
Right. So they move back to the top. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a huge Thursday night game. And the NFL has been so much fun this year. And I'm so glad it is, because bowl season, which we will get to, looks horrendous. I was doing my picks last night. What is that first week of games?
I feel like BYU got screwed out. I mean, number 13 bulk team and even a number 24 team playing in the first week of bowl games.
That's what it should be. We should be getting good games, good teams in these bowl games. But over half the teams have to play, so we get these crappy-ass teams playing each other that no one cares about. And then we have to try to guess who's going to win. The good thing about the first week of the bowl season is most of those teams aren't good enough where players are going to sit out. So you don't have to do that extra research of, is this star player going to play? Was this coach gone by now? All of these teams are, hey, we got to go on vacation and go play one more football game. And for a lot of seniors, it'll be their last game period, because they're not going to be good enough to make the pros. So at least effort-wise, it's going to be there. Everyone's going to show up and play. But I don't care about Liberty and Eastern Michigan at all. All right, we're going to make the pick. I guarantee you I don't watch a single play of that game.
The one that gets me is, and the only thing that intrigues me about it is prime time. The Cricket Celebration Bowl, we get to see SC State. Who's SC State? And then Jackson State.
Well,
the only reason we know anything about Jackson State is because it's Deion Sanders coaching, and it is also the I'm drawing a blank. The certain league that it is. So
it's all black schools, and
right.
That bowl is always really cool, because those teams never get any kind of TV coverage. So it's kind of cool to see that. And then you see Deion Sanders pulling away the number 2 recruit from Florida State, where he played, to go play at Jackson State. It's the first time ever an FCS team got a 5-star recruit since ESPN started doing their rankings. It's just crazy. I mean, I don't give a damn about college signing day because half the people that signed today won't even show up on their teams, and the half of the other teams or players that do show up for their freshman year are going to transfer out once they don't get a starting job anyway. So it's a lot of hype for a lot of nothing for that, but it's still pretty cool that they were able to get such a high prospect for sure. But we'll get to the college. We're just jumping around. We're completely off the rails.
We're late tonight. That's the problem. We're late.
I'm trying to find any energy I can, so we're bouncing around trying to find the energy, and we'll see how it goes. I have to say though, going back to the NFL, that was a decent slate last week. You look at all 3 primetime games; they were all very entertaining in their own different ways.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you could have thrown a dart at any of them to figure out which one you really wanted to watch. It's just, I think that's what's so intriguing this year is it has been anybody that can win is making a push at some of these games, and so it's the coin flip, like you and I were talking. It's just what can happen any given Sunday. So you go back and look at the scores from week 14 and none of them really blew it out of the water, really walked away with any. I mean, Minnesota come back and they ended up showing their dominant. Well, I mean, they showed their dominance after the crap week they had prior in week 13.
They showed their dominance for 2.5 quarters and then showed their weakness for another quarter and a half and held on by a play.
And then you look at Baltimore. I hate to bring it up. You look at Baltimore, Cleveland come out, run the tape.
You never
first half,
and then ever hate to bring up Baltimore because
I don't ever. But but they held Cleveland to no points in the second half. I mean, it just was crazy. And then the Raiders are the Raiders. They're just
So I gotta ask. I mean, it's a little different because Baltimore doesn't win that. But is there a quarterback controversy in Baltimore?
No.
Since every time a quarterback plays well in the backup role, we have to talk about quarterback controversies. We saw that with Zach Wilson going out. Now we get that with Gardner Minshew with Philadelphia. So why not with Baltimore, huh?
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Hey, we could even throw out there what Russell Wilson, dump Geno Smith, pick up somebody else who, throwing the name around of Gardner Minshew. But I don't know. It's just, there's too much here. Somebody's trying to figure out for next year already. Let's just let's enjoy the last 4 weeks of the NFL season and go from there.
So I got to ask you a trivia question, see if you can get it. And then we'll move on to some of the headlines. What is the only team in the NFL who has not won a game by a single possession?
I would have to say Carolina Panthers. I don't know. I don't think that's right.
Before I give you the answer, obviously you do believe that teams that can win close games are good, and teams that can't win the close games are bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
How about the only team in the entire NFL, all 32 teams, one team has not won by a single possession this season? It's the Buffalo Bills. How shocking is that? 7-6. Now lost 3 of their last 4. Got crushed by the Colts. Lost 2 close ones to the Patriots and the Buccaneers. Have not. Their closest margin of victory is 12. And that was back in week 3 against Washington.
Yeah.
So obviously we all thought, Buffalo was going to be the top of that division. Are we worried of them even making the playoffs at this point?
It could be very interesting. You look at, I think they're missing an identity in the backfield.
Oh my God.
They had Moss. Moss didn't play this last week at anything. Singletary can't seem to get enough carries or even over the 50 yards total.
Do you know how many?
They're giving everything to Josh Allen. Here you go, Josh.
I watched a lot of that game. It had a lot of fantasy implications for me. you know how many rushing attempts Buffalo had in the first half out of an offensive set, not including the fake punt that failed? How many rushing attempts they had with their offense in the first half?
I don't know first half. I know I remember thinking back at the other game they only rushed it because of the weather. They
I'll
rushed
give
it
you a
like 2
hint.
times.
I'll give you a hint. It's the exact same number of times they've won by a single possession this year.
12.
0. They have not won. We just
Oh,
went over
I
this
went
trivia question.
I went the points. It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
0. 0 rushing attempts or like set runs like Josh Allen would run, but
Right.
0 set rushing attempts in the first half, minus a fake punt that did not work.
Right.
All right, let's get into some NFL news, and obviously very, very sad news to hit first, but Demaryius Thomas passed away. Obviously, he played mostly for Denver. I mean, I think that's where most people remember him for. Played for the Jets for a little bit. I remember him playing his last season there back in 2019. But your thoughts on Demaryius Thomas?
Heck of an athlete. Yeah, I mean, he could be a difference maker. Throw him the ball, throw it up high. His big statue. He's gonna be missed. I'm very shocked that he stepped away from football this last year, not playing at all. I mean, 33 years old, still plenty of legs left in it. I think the best thing and the most classy thing is them to come out in letting them win the coin flip the whole 9 yards with all that coming out 10 guys. Dan Campbell and the Lions declining the penalty just for that moment that everybody could, basically say their goodbyes in the middle of a game. I think it was a classy move by Fangio and the whole coaching staff. So hats off. He's going to be one of those players that'll be missed.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what happened.
I don't think they've said yet.
I know Yahoo Sports, I was just trying to search some stuff up 5 days ago, said possible seizure. His family had said he had some of those after a car crash he had a couple years ago. New York Post says he had a seizure in the shower, which is it's just sad. And I mean, it's just bad. And honestly, hearing that the seizure in the shower thing hits home even more because I worked with a guy named Dustin Taylor that the same thing happened to him a couple years after he left Lancers. And hearing that news while we were bowling a Swiss was really hard to take.
That was a tough day.
So just reading that just brings back those kind of memories, and that just absolutely sucks. But obviously going to be missed. Fantastic player. Glad, I mean, you never want to see anybody pass away, but I'm glad it was not because of the usual suspects when somebody passes away at 33. But why do we have to lose him? But Henry Ruggs is still around after his bonehead move. Period.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to be a little mean. He's not a Hall of Famer. Even as tragic as his death at 33 is, his career was just a little too short for me.
Yeah, 100%. He was way too short. He was a heck of a player. I think if he maybe had a different quarterback at one point, but it's just weird that he's like he said, stepped away there this last year, not playing whatsoever. So yeah, he easily could have probably started on maybe 5 or 6 rosters right now.
Oh yeah,
if somebody would have called
and obviously if he
has
had those medical stuff, you understand now why he did not play. It's just sad for sure. I will skip the COVID stuff because I have a believe it or not for that. Did you see the news that came out today?
I was testing kids all day today, so I've not seen any sports headlines today.
The former kicker of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Josh Lambo, alleges that Urban Meyer kicked him. So the headline is Urban Meyer kicked his kicker. Are you surprised? Is that crossing a line? Is it just Urban being Urban? Where do you stand with this stupid news?
It's Urban being Urban, I think. I mean, we knew this is how he is in the locker room, all that. It's just crazy how it seems to keep following him, and he's not that having issues. The dynamics in his clubhouse and the locker room, it just doesn't. As much as he's a good coach, sometimes I just don't think he is one of those guys you want to play for. And I'm wondering if some
No.
of these players are getting to that point that they know I don't want to play for this guy whatsoever. I don't think he has control of that locker room.
No, honestly, it shows why a lot of college coaches fail when they go to the NFL, because at college you can be the dictator. Now, luckily, some of the college coaches that we have met around the area are nowhere near this, but there's a lot of college coaches that love to be the straight up dictator, and they're going to tell you exactly what you're going to do, and they can yell at you and cuss at you, and there's nothing you can do because you're an unpaid college athlete that is there trying to get to the pros. So you're going to do whatever the coach says to be able to get your playing time and move forward. And that's not the way it is, because now he's trying to do this with players that make more money than him. And I just love the fact that Josh Lambo, according to ESPN's report, said that he characterized the kick as a 5 out of 10. And after telling the coach, "Don't ever effing kick me again," Urban Meyer allegedly told him, "I'm the head ball coach. I'll kick you whenever I want." So
now it becomes how much longer does
he's done?
Jacksonville? How long do they keep dealing with his shenanigans? And if he doesn't have the locker room, do you think he's done at the end of the year?
He's got one and done. I think he's got to be done. I think we did the Believe It or Not a couple weeks ago, and I thought he would stay one more year, excuse me, but nothing's working. Did you see his face after the football game on Sunday? Just completely defeated, and I guess he goes back to the locker room and blames everyone else but himself. But that team is completely lost. It's just, I don't know. It's a mess. And other sad news before we get to some Believe It or Nots, but DeAndre Hopkins out for the season. It's just crazy how you get one injury, like it looks like it's okay, and then all of a sudden, oh, never mind, they're out for the year. I was like Josh Allen made it through his game, and now he's worried about surgery. It looks like he will play, but what do you think of Hopkins, and what does that do with Arizona?
It hurts me because I had him in my fantasy league, and I snuck in on my one fantasy league with him, and now I gotta hope that that Hunter Renfrow and Mike Williams can pull me through, because it's now DeAndre Hopkins is not there. But I think look for Kyler Murray to probably start running the ball a little bit more. They're going to have to get Zach Ertz more involved in that offense. It's going to be, they should have pretty well an easy cakewalk this week walking through Detroit. So I would think they would kind of expand the playbook with some of these younger guys in Detroit, because they know they should be able to handle business up there, run some stuff with some new guys and get them feelers. But I think Zach Ertz has got to be more part of this offense than he has been since his trade.
Yeah, and you guys think AJ Green's going to step up a bit more? He looked pretty good on Monday night. And Christian Kirk, still that big play receiver that's just a little undersized to be your go-to. But we will see. James Conner was absolutely fantastic out of the backfield as far as catching. And you got to think Chase Edmonds, who was close enough to come back Monday, that they took him off of IR. He just didn't play. Will be good, hopefully, this week, which will give them a little bit extra as well. Just not the best news for Arizona, who just lost to the Rams and dropped from the top seed to the third seed, and now lose their top receiver. But let's get into it. Let's get into Randy's Believe It or Not. We'll bring the music back. Hopefully it works. Everybody's listening. Let me know. Can Robert hear it? I can hear it. Perfect. All right, let's have some fun. Randy's Believe It or Not, the best radio segment in all of radio segments. It's the most original segment. It has never been done before. Straight original here on the R&R Sports Report. Let's start it out. We were talking about COVID. NFL teams need to go back into team bubbles for the rest of the season. Believe it or not.
I think it sure help. How many did we have on 36 players and a staff member on Monday. So it was kind of crazy. With
there was even more on Tuesday, and
yeah,
it's a mess.
I mean, how else are you going to do? I mean, when is it going to become that you start seeing housing complexes around the training facilities and say, guess what? You've got to stay during this time.
Right. Playoff time, especially.
Yeah, especially playoff time. And I would think maybe within the next maybe 2 weeks we see that once we get to some of these playoff teams that we know are sure in. Do they put a mandate on these guys to say, sorry guys, let's get through Christmas, but guess what? You're gonna now quarantine where we can make a run for this thing.
It's gonna be really tough to set up that quarantine around Christmas, with Christmas and New Year's coming up over the next couple weeks. But yeah, you got to think that last week or so of the regular season and all the playoffs, there's gonna be some teams that at least really consider it, and we'll see what the numbers do going forward. But whatever your thoughts are with COVID, a lot of these players now can't play. They have to go through and get negative tests to have a chance to play. Some of them will, and those numbers will go down. But we saw that with the Chargers and Keenan Allen last week. It messes up your team. The Cleveland's going through a lot of that stuff right now. And the NFL's basically gone, we're not postponing anything. Get your people on the field or don't. We don't care. But it's up to you. And I think it will be up to the NFL to be able to, or the NFL teams, it's up to them whether they want to police their teams or not. And hopefully the players are on board with it. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the next one, NFL draft. As a Jets fan, already thinking about it. I've already done a couple. Like, I found a website that lets you do these automatic, like, draft scenario stuff, and it's really fun because teams will start it's like sending you these ridiculous trades and stuff. I already having fun with it, but we're starting to see some big names come out with their 2022 NFL draft predictions. You know, it was always that Thibodeau kid from Oregon that was number one. However, there's some boards now that have Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan as the number one pick in the 2022 NFL draft. Believe it or not, that he will be the first pick taken.
If I knew that your team was going to be the number one pick,
there's a lot of work for the Jets to have to get number one.
Yeah, I mean, a lot can happen. So now,
the Jets would not take him.
Yeah, they might. I mean, they could use a little extra help on the. I don't think he goes first. No. Even though
who do you think goes first, then?
Even though the quarterback class is not
horrible.
Yeah, it's not. Horrible. Yeah, it's not as good as it has been in the past. You could think of a couple. I just don't see him going first. I don't think they go defense because right now it is Houston that has the number one pick, right?
No, Detroit.
They traded
Detroit.
Detroit's
the number one pick. Houston, Jacksonville right now are 2 and 3, but they play each other this week.
So Detroit. I think, I hate to say it, Detroit's going to end up having to go. I don't think Goff was the answer there. I think they go
they're not going quarterback.
It would be
not number
very
one.
Surprising. I would be very surprised if they didn't. He's just not. Goff has not stepped up. He's not been what they're thinking.
That's fine. I mean, and you can get a quarterback or you can get one in free agency, but you're not drafting one number one overall. Not in this draft class. It's just there's not one there.
They're pretty low.
It's a weak quarterback class for sure. I don't see any of it. So I'm going to say yes. I think he had a much stronger season than Thibodeau out of Oregon. I do think those are the top two. I know there's a offensive lineman out there who I'm blanking. It's Evan something that also seems to be way up there out of Alabama, whose size is ridiculous. Let me see if I could find it real quick because it is. His side, you know how we were talking about Mekhi Becton a couple years ago? Same thing here. It's just, where's his name? Evan Neal. I was completely wrong. Evan Neal, 6'7", 350 pounds. That man is a beast.
I don't
you
think.
You look at CBS. Their first quarterback off the board on their mock draft is pick number 5 to the Giants and Matt Corral, and I even think that's high.
Yeah,
I think that's as far as people reach at this point.
But it's early, we'll see where somebody goes. And looking at, I am on PFF, and they have Corral going off at 16. So I mean, he's still a ways down. But you look at the class that they're going, everything is defense. The first 4 is all defense. You go Hutchins, Thibodeau, Hamilton from Notre Dame, and Stingley from LSU. So it'll be interesting to see.
I have to tell you, I've seen a lot of Derek Stingley to the Jets, and I want that. He's supposed to be this top-tier cornerback that has injury issues, so maybe you get him with the Seattle pick. If he starts dropping down the draft, that's who I want to see the Jets get.
Yeah, it does say that he's a 41.1% completion percentage when thrown at. So yeah, that's pretty good.
Obviously, we're getting to that point. Start researching for some of these players. As a Jets fan, I'm already starting to look. I'm not going to sit there and say I'm going to watch a lot of tape, but at least try to get some research and get ready for the NFL draft, because it's all you can do as a Jets fan is, all right, let's see what happens next year. All right, next, Randy's Believe It or Not. Dan Snyder just needs to be kicked out of the league. There's a report that came out yesterday, which Roger Goodell has already come out saying it was completely false, but I don't believe him. But a report has come out saying that Snyder tried to interfere with that Washington probe, blocking interviews from somebody who was alleged to say that Snyder abused them. It's a joke. He needs to go. If Gruden's gone for a couple of emails, which, yes, he should not have sent, and they were disgusting and inexcusable, Snyder should have been gone yesterday.
Well, I agree. As much as he is, I hate the word anymore, alleged, because we keep using that word so much.
You have to in the media.
Over. But that's what I'm saying, though. That word has become so used over the last 5 or 10 years, But how much longer are the owners going to put up with this guy, bringing the feeling of them down? I think he needs to be gone. I think NFL will do something to the point of forcing the hand of the ownership there for him to leave.
Goodell's comments today makes me question that. I don't know. All right, next one. New England versus Tampa Bay is the Super Bowl that the NFL wants.
I think they want to see Tom Brady again, but I think they want to see. I think they're more into the NFC Championship. They want to see Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers again. I think that's what they're looking for more than the Super Bowl.
They're thinking Super Bowl. I think it's definitely the Super Bowl that NBC wants.
Well, I think it's Tampa. It's going to get there. It's probably going to end up being Tampa, and I hate to say it, Patrick's got it figured out. I think Patrick
he doesn't have anything figured out. The defense has things figured out,
and Kansas City's going to make the run. Well, they're on 5 straight, so I think they've got
because of the defense.
Well, the defense has stepped up finally. They're all finally starting to play better.
All right, I already know your answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways because you're a homer. Buffalo, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh will all miss the playoffs.
Pittsburgh is definitely going to miss the playoffs. That's the easy no-brainer there. You look at Pittsburgh's schedule. I think Tennessee
he brought
has their way. I know. I think Tennessee's got a really good chance to go into Pittsburgh this weekend and win. Right now, Pittsburgh has only got 6 wins on the season. So with the 6-6-1 for the Steelers, I guarantee. I think they totally miss out on the playoffs. I hate saying it. Baltimore's got, as much as I'm on their train, Baltimore's probably got one of the toughest schedules to finish out the year. And so gonna have to have a little help, and that's what happened this weekend. We're holding on, like my headline, we're holding on by the skin of our teeth. So
yeah. So you're saying Buffalo makes it?
I think Buffalo makes it.
I don't know. I mean, they get Carolina, which should be a get right game.
Mm-hmm.
But then New England, which should eliminate them from the division. And then, Atlanta and the Jets are two winnable games. But right now, they're in a complete cluster as far as that last playoff spot goes. So, I don't know, man. It would be shocking to see all three of them miss.
Right.
So I will say I don't believe it as well, but it's going to be interesting. And the last one, a team with a losing record will make the NFC playoffs.
Let's see. A losing record. So we're talking like Minnesota.
Well, right now, Washington is the last playoff team at 6-7.
But Minnesota's there at 6-7, right?
Yeah. Philadelphia's at 6-7. Atlanta's at 6-7. New Orleans is at 6-7. I'm saying none of those 5 teams will go 3-1 the rest of the way.
I don't think so. I just don't. Minnesota, I think, has the best chance at it. I don't think, even with New Orleans getting Alvin Kamara back and Taysom Hill having another monster game this week, finally playing what they thought he was going to do. I don't see any.
I'll tell you that. Do you think the Vikings beat the Rams
this week?
No, in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Vikings, Rams, and I think that is at LA, right?
No, that's in Minnesota.
Minnesota.
But either way, it's indoors in the turf.
Yeah. Got it.
Who you got?
That might be the game of the week. It could be a game of the week. Give me Minnesota. I had Minnesota.
That would give you the 3-1. They play the Bears twice, which you give them the 2 wins there. The other 2 games are Rams and then at Green Bay, which that's definitely not a win.
So you're looking at the schedule. I don't even have a schedule up.
So it's just you're just trying to say they're going to go in 3-1. I'm just trying to figure out where the 3 wins are going to come from.
Listen, I wanted Minnesota to finish above Green Bay this year, so I've been trying to stay happy on their not being a bandwagon guy, but
all right, that's it for Randy's Believe It or Not. Let's move on to our NFL Week 14 awards. And it's deja vu for me. George Kittle. He was my player of the week last week in a losing effort. This week, he helped San Francisco get a big win. 13 receptions, 151 yards, and a touchdown. He's the first tight end ever to have over 150 yards receiving in back-to-back games and have a touchdown in both games. It's simple. The dude's a complete beast, and they're going to need him to make this playoff run that I had predicted back in August. So the back-to-back playoff weeks for me. It's Jonathan Taylor for you and George Kittle for me. It seems like almost every other week lately.
Yeah, but that's the big thing is Jonathan Taylor was on a bye this week, so it'll be interesting. I really am excited.
So how are you going to make it your player of the week this week?
I can't this week, so I'm going to go a little bit different. But you look at and you talk about George Kittle. I think he has a favorable matchup with all of the remaining schedule. I mean, he's got Atlanta this next week, Tennessee, at Tennessee, and then you've got Houston. So Kittle could easily go off again against Atlanta. It could easily go off against Houston. So they need him down the road.
I might just permanently put it there for me.
Just for a couple more weeks, right?
Yep.
Listen, I got to go
all the way to the Super Bowl, sir.
All the way to the Super Bowl. So I picked him earlier in the year. I'm going to go Minnesota. Give me Dalvin Cook. I mean, 27 carries, 205 yards, and two touchdowns. But I think the biggest thing, he was averaging almost just over 7.5 yards a carry. So it was nice to see him. And it killed me because I did not start him thinking he was not going to play because of getting hurt the week before. And it comes back and bites me in the backside. So
slightly.
Just a little bit. So I got to give him his props.
I'm going to stay for game of the week with that same game. San Francisco-Cincinnati was a good back-and-forth battle. It goes all the way to overtime. Cincinnati able to get the field goal. 49ers go right down and score the touchdown. Garoppolo looking better and better. I'm not going to say he's great by any means, but he's getting better and better. And San Francisco doing everything they can with all the injuries they're having in the backfield as well. 2 teams that are fighting extremely hard for playoff spots, and I thought it was a very well contested game. I don't think either team looked terrible. which is what you want to see. So San Francisco Cincinnati was my game of the week.
Yeah, great one. We talked about it. My early pick was going to be the Arizona game. Easily could have been there too for me this week. It was a great game there Monday night. But for me, it has to be the Buffalo Tampa Bay game. Buffalo come back and score 17 points in the fourth quarter. Well, even let's talk about the entire second half. They held Tampa Bay to just 3 points in the second half and dominate the entire second half. Josh Allen comes back, throws for over 300 yards, but runs also for another 109. So they made it quite interesting. Let me tell you, it was a great comeback chance, but you leave it to Tom Brady, and that part is you go. I believe it was 3 and out for Buffalo with the start of overtime. You can't do that against. You can't go do that against Tom Brady.
No, not at all. All right, let's look ahead to week 15. And my game, we got Saturday Night Football back for the NFL, which is kind of cool. Obviously, they don't do it during the early part of the season because they don't want to get in the way with college football. But now that college football is just into bowl season, now we're going to spread this out a little bit. And then we got a good one. Actually, both games on Saturday are pretty darn good. Add in Thursday as well. So, but for me, New England at Indianapolis on Saturday at 5:15. Huge playoff implications there. And I'm very, very excited to watch that one.
Yeah, I think that one's going to be a great one. The sad part is I'm going to have to listen to that game I'm hoping the radio car, the Nelly broadcasting car does still have our chance where we can listen to the game on as we drive down to Pendleton. And we'll talk about that game here, but I'm bummed that I'm not going to get to listen. Yeah, I'm bummed that I don't get to listen to I'm hoping we get to listen to it because we will not get to see it on the way down. But yeah, a couple of great games there. So for me, and you said it, you think Green Bay is going to end up winning, but for me, I think it's a do or die for Baltimore. So Lamar against Rodgers, but it's a do or die. You've got to win. Cincinnati's got a favorable schedule. Cleveland has a favorable schedule going into the next couple of weeks. Baltimore's got to make a statement here at home on the game of the week on the afternoon slate of the schedule on Sunday. It's the national game, so they've got to make a point. So I think that's probably the most exciting afternoon game on Sunday.
Yeah, good slate. It's going to be fun. Thursday night, obviously, fantastic. Saturday, both games have huge playoff implications. Sunday, you get a lot of divisional matchups and some playoff implications. You even get the two worst teams, Texans and Jaguars, going at it for playoff spots. So it's great.
That's what I was going to ask you. You look at the schedule, and you know me, I'm a big schedule person.
Yes.
You look at the schedule. Who do you want to see in the morning games? And then for those of you that know, we are on the Pacific time. So who do you want to see in that early slate, that 10 a.m. game? I mean, nothing there. You already know Arizona's going to run away with it. You've got division matchup with Dallas and New York. That shouldn't be much of a game. Tennessee, Pittsburgh, is that the best matchup in the morning?
Tennessee, Pittsburgh's up there. I'm interested in the football team and the Eagles. Obviously, two teams 6 and 7 battling it out for that last playoff spot. I want to see what Buffalo can do against the Panthers. So, there's some decent games, but you're right. It is more afternoon, and then all the primetime games I'm excited for. Well, I guess Monday night's kind of weak, but even the Buccaneers Saints on Sunday night, the Saints always play Tampa Bay tough. So even though I think Tampa Bay should roll them on Sunday night, you just never know. I think we got some good games.
I think the NFL got this week right with their primetime matchups. I really do. Being fair, Chicago was figured to be a little bit better. Minnesota was figured to be a little bit better. So I think that was an okay in the brain to set up.
And still, I mean, even though the Bears aren't in the playoff hunt, you want that cold Chicago feel on a Monday night. It's always a NFL tradition for
Yep.
sure. Let's move to the weekly pick'ems, where I was able to gain a game on you again. We both went homer. We both got our homer pick wrong. Mine was a bit more wrong than yours. But yeah, I was able to win 3 of the 5 picks we had different. So I have cut the lead to 6. It was 11 a few weeks ago.
Yep.
I'm running out of damn time. We have 4 weeks left. I'm still down 6, and you're not even the leader in our bowling picks. So I have more room to go to try to win that. But I'm happy with the ground that I have gained, and we will see if I could gain some more ground on Thursday night when Kansas City goes to LA and the Chargers try to pull off the sweep, which I'm sure has not happened in many years, but I did not look it up. And I think they will. I think it's going to be a crazy game. I remember a game really a couple years ago between the Chargers and Chiefs when the Chiefs were even more dominant than they are now, and the Chargers stunned them at home. So I don't think it'll be as stunning this week when they win, but I'm taking the Chargers.
Yeah, so if you look up on your screen now, I went ahead and we've got it done. I did text you and tell you we've got 5 games different on this week's schedule. First of all, we both disagree with 2 of these favorable matchups here, Chargers and Kansas City. So
Wow,
it'll
we
be
both.
interesting.
Actually, surprising you took Indy as well. That was honestly one that when you told me that we picked 5 different, that I thought that was going to be one of them. And honestly, the rest of these, as you said, straight up coin flips. Right, Houston, Jacksonville. I don't know. I have no clue. Like Jacksonville, I think has more talent, but they're a bigger mess. So there you go. So those are our picks for this week. We will see if I can cut it in. It could be a 1-game difference going into next week, or it could be an 11-game difference. Who knows? It'll be really interesting to see. Let's get into some high school sports. As again, we said at the top of the show, we both called some basketball games yesterday. I called the Lewiston games as the girls and boys both took on Pendleton, which you just said you will be watching on Saturday. And I'm just going to say this. I'm going to be as nice as possible to Pendleton. Their girls are in deep doo-doo against the Clarkson Bantam girls team, who have struggled a little bit over the last couple of days, sir. And we'll see if they can get things righted. But the Lewiston girls are still growing as a team, trying to find some extra weapons outside of Katie Wessels. And boy, did they against Pendleton. So Wessels gets her 15 points. She had 14 of those in the first half. She scored 10 in the first quarter, as she was like, Katie Wessels was so tall. Their tallest player on Pendleton came up to her shoulder. And just was kind of, you saw them go get ready for the tip, and the Pendleton player just turned to her teammate and started laughing. Like, it was like, what do you want me to do? So Lewiston smartly just kept throwing it inside. So I expect a lot of Erica Pickett, I think, on Saturday for Clarkston. Deep doo-doo. Yes, deep doo-doo. It's a play-by-play term that I use greatly. Savannah Burke was also fantastic inside. She finished with 12. Annika Uren, who had 3 3-pointers last weekend, ended up with 8 points as well. And Lewiston won that game 62-17, and it wasn't even that close. Pendleton, the most they ever scored in the quarter was 5. So, again, I think the Clarkson team is better than the Lewiston team on the girls' side. So Pendleton is in trouble. The boys, they jumped out to about a 15-point lead and held on to it for most of it. Did let Pendleton sneak in and make it look closer than it was. Bengals win that one 55-48, so they moved to 5-0 on the year. And by the way, as somebody who will be calling the game, do you know the Pendleton mascot? Because I did not until yesterday, and I had so much fun calling it. You're on mute, sir. Jeez,
I know. I'm
straight professional.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, I know that the girls will be hosting, well, kind of hosting over at Lewiston, but I'm not sure. I never have. I wanted to say they're like the Broncos or the Burrows or some.
They're close. It's the Pendleton Buckaroos.
The Buckaroos.
It's really fun to say the Buckaroos coming down the court.
Yeehaw! Yeehaw!
It's not as fun saying Gooey Ducks, though, in the Evergreen State's taking on the LCSC Warriors, but the Buckaroos is another just a fun name to call during play-by-play. But Lewiston, like I said earlier, Both have one more game, both the girls and boys, before the Avista tournament. They have it on split days. Both headed to Sandpoint. Boys play Thursday night. Girls play Friday night, and then they will have that week and a half off before they play. Is it Grangeville in that first game of the Avista tournament? You have the team. Well, at the moment it's Grangeville, but according to you, we might have different teams.
No, it might be a little bit different as I pull out my bracket here for the varsity. Right now, the Lewiston boys will be taking on Grangeville, and both of them.
Yeah,
so
they're both playing the same team.
Yeah, Grangeville, 9 a.m. Girls tip time, boys at 10:30. I'll already be there. I'll be there.
The alarms that I'm going to have to set to be ready for that game.
It'll be crazy.
I'm a nighttime guy. I'll be at the tribute till about 1 a.m. Probably hit the gym after it because I'm a moron and go to the gym at 1 a.m. But yeah, well, it'll be fun. The Vista tournament's it'll perk me up and I'll be ready to go. But that's the Lewiston side. How is Clarkson doing?
Oh, Clarkson just had another couple of games here last night as they played Moscow, and we'll talk a little bit of that here in a few minutes. But let's talk about the girls. They're 4-1 on the season. Pick up a very tight win last night against the Moscow Bears. Winning that one 39-36. Erica Pickett had 10 points down in the box and was able to get a couple key buckets. Kendall Wallace comes away with 9 points. Also, Eloise Teasley, one of the younger ladies for the Bantams, she comes away with 7 points in that game. But they also played earlier in last Friday. They did play up in East Valley and take on Sela, a CWAC team. They'd come away with a overtime win, 43-41. Last night was my first night of watching the Clarkson girls play, and so other than film, they came out just a little on the slow side. It's not the same firepower as it was when Ashland was there, but we can't keep comparing them to having Ashland or having AJ or anybody like that used to play. They just came out slow. They need to get into a good rhythm and get out quick. And I think they can do that against Pendleton. Like I said, the girls play Pendleton on tomorrow night up at Lewiston High School. Tip is at 7:00 for that one. I am working the JV game, so I'll get to see them a little bit earlier in that one. Turn our attention over to the boys' side, and they come away with a tough loss last night. They cut it down. They were behind most of the night, cut it to a 50-50 game with just over a minute left to go in the fourth quarter. But Jamari Simpson from Moscow, he is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the IEA or IEL league there for them guys. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do. But Jamari has a great game in that one. As far as the Bantams, they've got to get the ball down to Austin Steinwall. Austin had a great night last night, 22 points in the paint. He did hit a couple of big threes and field goals. And yes, Eric Watkins, it is the R&R after dark.
I'm ready for a nap.
It is getting close. So, yeah, Bantams have tomorrow night off, but they will be playing host on Friday. Be the first game in Kramer Gym on Friday as they host in Lewis and Clark out of Spokane. So a bigger school will come down and face the Bantams. Tip there is on. Tip is at 7:00, and then on Saturday, the boys will travel to Pendleton, which I will be doing on the radio for that one. So I'm hoping to get to listen to a little NFL football on the way down, as we will be calling the game. Jamin and I will be calling the game for Nelly Broadcasting on that. And a game that I found out this morning.
Clarkson Bantams or Monday.
Yeah, Clarkson Bantams picked up a game, and they will be going up to Freeman to play Freeman on Monday. It is a weird time, tip time, 5:45 tip time. So maybe I should just spend the night in Worley. I don't know. It's only a few miles from Worley, so it'll be interesting. We'll see how that goes. But busy slate. Before the Avista tournament, they're kind of in the same boat. We'll have about 7 days off before the Vista tournament starts on the 28th, and a full slate of games.
Before we get into wrestling, I just have to say now that it is 9 o'clock or midnight in some places, you are listening to the R&R Sports Report. We are on our Christmas break right now, as our schedule is all over the place. But definitely check out or go subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, and keep up to date on when our shows will be the rest of December or January.
Does that mean since it's after midnight, I can have one of these, right?
Well, you gotta put a tape over the logo, because then we get in trouble. It's like the TV shows where you have to cover that stuff. I think that's how legal works. I don't know. Nobody watches our stuff. So yeah, definitely check that out. Next week we will be on our normal time, Tuesday 6 p.m. And then the week after that, after Christmas, it all depends with the Vesta, and especially if they change the schedule on us. But we will keep you updated. And Lois, yes, we are all gonna have some happy holidays if I could breathe through all of that stuff. Label to camera. That's the opposite. Not get the sponsorship. We cannot get sponsorships. We are a college radio show, even though we're not on the radio for a few weeks. So do not listen to that man. I will say that. All right, let's get into Clarkson Wrestling, which is the reason why we are R&R After Dark tonight.
Yeah, R&R After Dark tonight. We had a heck of a match. Clarkson had their first duel of the season as they hosted in the Pullman Greyhounds, and started off. Clarkson come out on fire, pinned the first 6 guys, and it was just crazy. But I just watched the craziest match that started. It happened in the 106-pound weight class. And Clarkson Jonah McCaney literally lifted this kid up, and this kid Jonah maybe stands 5'2", 5'3", and he wrestles 106. Picked this other kid up over his head and slammed him down to the ground. But he only ends up winning his match 6-3, and so the Bantams only get 3 points there. He could never get him pinned, and then the Bantams come up short and lose 42-39. But it was great matches, lots of pins. There 5 pins for the Bantams and 4 pins for the Pullman Greyhounds. So missed it. I mean, it's been 2 years since I've called a Bantam high school wrestling match.
I've got to ask you before we move on. Obviously, we had Corey Thieveridge on last week.
Yep,
a good friend of ours. Also a bowler, so we've known him for years. First year coaching. You're a veteran PA announcer for wrestling, and this kid is having a great match. Why don't you slip him some knucks? Give him that steel chair from behind. I mean, you know all the tricks to how wrestling works, right? I've seen it for years.
Listen, I don't like him stopping matches for blood time, man. The guys were getting in a groove, and then all of a sudden we had 2 different times we had to stop the match for blood time for them to come over and clean up a little boo-boo that they didn't have taped right on his. One guy had it on his forearm. The other one got popped in the nose pretty good and was bleeding. But come on, let him just finish. Blood's not going to hurt
you get that in every sport. Yeah, there's some different diseases that you can get from blood transfer. Well, we'll just say that. So yeah, very, very cool to see wrestling getting rolling here as well on the season.
And we have to shout out to the Clarkson Bantams. After Coach was on, we had about 4 guys already liked our page. And make sure you send it out. And a few of them listening tonight. I know Carson Ash was going to be listening. Thieveridge, Bodie's probably listening back at home. Also, Austin Thieveridge, some guys that have now jumped on board. So shout out to those guys. Had a heck of a match tonight.
All right, let's move on to some local college news. As first for the LCSC basketball team. First, the big news. Did you see that came out today? I know you were saying you haven't seen a lot of news yet today. But did you see the LCSC news that hit today?
I have been, like I said, we're trying to test everybody before we get into the Christmas break. One of the mandatory testing that I have to do. So my day was running around different classrooms. So really never even looked at my phone.
The breaking news is the Avista tournament will not be taking place at the LCSC Activity Center after Christmas.
No, it will. Now I do know. I did
Mhm.
see that one a few minutes. It is not the
It's no longer the LCSC Activity Center. P1FCU, a local bank chain for anyone not listening from the Valley, donated $2 million to LCSC to rename the Activity Center. So, of course, it will now be known as the P1FCU Activity Center. And LCSU has already said that they will use most of that money on school scholarships and student athlete situations and helping there. So fantastic cause. Obviously, P1FCU has been a fantastic supporter for all local sports. I mean, anytime that either of us have done radio for Lewiston or Clarkson, P1FCU is always a sponsor for either of those. Are always a sponsor of LCSC, so they have been fantastic as far as local sports go. And I know a lot of people get all butthurt about like buildings or stadiums getting changed because of all the money getting thrown around. But when it comes to colleges, that $2 million is going to be put to really, really good use.
100%. I mean, you look at what they did, and I don't know if you have been in there, but that was the one thing I did see George yesterday. Him and I, before the game for Clarkson, we were talking about. He says, kind of a different look in here, huh? And I was looking, and they had painted a little bit different on the floor. Lewis Clark State was a little bit different color, but
Nice.
huge curtains they've already installed up on the second level above the stadium seating that they can close things off a little bit.
Nice.
That will be nice. That'll happen on both sides. Kind of make it feel a little bit more enclosed when we don't do like Golden Throne that where we pack them to the rafters. I think that's the main time we ever see that thing 100% full. We've seen LC matches get full in there, but when it comes to Golden Throne, it's a whole nother ball game. But some nice curtains, things that they're doing in there, and hats off to LCSC and P1FCU getting that thing done.
All right. As far as basketball goes for the Warriors, they both were victorious in their solo games this last week. The men defeated Portland Bible College at home. They won that one 95-47. You got to mute yourself when you take yourself off camera so we don't hear the beer opening, sir. The 5 players in
beer,
double figures for the Warriors.
That's water.
I was a liar. You're a straight liar. I watched you do it. Just because you take yourself off of this screen doesn't mean I can't see you on the bottom holding the special blue can that you were showing off just a minute ago. So yes, the men now moving 10-1 on the year. They're still 3-0 in conference. Huge week for the Warriors. I'll get to that in a second. But the women went on the road and beat George Fox 73-45. They stay undefeated, 9-0 on the year. But Friday and Saturday, 2 Cascade Conference games. First at Eastern Oregon, the women at 5:30, the men at 7:30. And then Saturday at College of Idaho, which is a big rivalry game for LC. Women at 2 p.m., the men at 4 p.m. And College of Idaho ranked 15th in the country. And I believe LC is around 20th right now. I forget exactly where LC sits as far as the men's standings go, but that's going to be a fantastic one to be able to try to find a watch or at least be able to listen to Brian Danner call that game. So that one will be good. WSU, we're getting a lot of it. Max Borghi declares for the NFL draft. He will not play in the bowl game. So we're going to see a lot of that. And there's still other questions as far as different linemen and stuff, whether they're going to play or not. It's bowl season, which everyone's all excited for, but it never works out right. And then Haley sent probably a GIF of something that I don't get. So
they did say, Coach Digger was talking about he will make things official next week. So we will look to the first week of Christmas before we know exactly who's playing, who's and not. It wasn't 100% yet that Max Borghi is out, but you almost have to figure that he said in his tweet there on his Twitter account the other day, thank you, but it's time to start training and getting ready. So you almost can read the writing between the lines that he's probably done. But, Deion McIntosh should be a good fit there to take on the Hurricanes. So, and, it was just a little different firepower with McIntosh and Borghi, but happy to see what that guy can do. So,
Haley sent an avatar thing apparently that we couldn't see. She just sent it to me in Messenger.
Oh, Well,
All
I'll
right, let's
probably
get into some college football news. And first, the Heisman Trophy winner came out. We'll get into some more Heisman Trophy stuff soon. Wink, wink, as far as our draft this week. But Bryce Young, quarterback out of Alabama, wins it. Fourth in passing, 43 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions, which is just absolutely fantastic. 88.9 QBR. I know that wasn't the man that you picked, sir. But are you upset about that?
No, I'm surprised that Walker didn't get near as much recognition. I think he's probably the top running back in the nation. But hats off to him. I'm Bryce Young. I think the first 2 guys have went back to back. Alabama guys. I think that's the first time we've seen a back to back 2 different guys win the Heisman. So hats off to him.
Eric, if you're still watching, can you let us know if that is true or not? I'm not 100% sure myself. All right, but it is the first week of college bowls, which means we are going to start doing our predictions, and there's a ton of them. We're going to do these ones straight up. We did spread for our 5 picks during the season, but for bowl games, and I just don't care at all. We will go straight up on that. This is true. And as the and first quarterback, really? Didn't Tua win it?
Tua won it. I think it's first back to back 2 different people.
Huh? So. I don't know. I'd have to look it up, or Eric will correct me on something. But I thought Tua had won it for Alabama.
Yep.
But all right, let's get in
to the first 12.
First
12 of 42.
12 of these things.
12 of 42 this week.
Let's play some NCAA football 14 music to get ourselves ready, shall we? I can't wait for the college football games to come back. Just FYI. It's my favorite games to play. But let's get into it first with the Bahamas Bowl on Friday, December 17th. Middle Tennessee versus Toledo. Toledo at 10. Tua did not win it, huh? Toledo's a 10.5-point favorite. Give me Toledo.
Yeah, I don't think that the Middle Tennessee can even compete with them. So I'm going to take Toledo also.
All right. We also on Friday, the Tail Greeter Cure Bowl. Get excited for that one. Northern Illinois.
Some of these names just kill me. I just don't understand.
Well, it's the Cure Bowl, and then it's just sponsored. Like, the sponsorship should not kill you. Again, we were just praising the P1FCU Activity Center, so don't get mad at the Tail Greeter Cure Bowl. It's just the Cure Bowl. Northern Illinois versus Coastal Carolina. We've picked Coastal Carolina games a lot this season because they like to play on Thursdays and Fridays. Give me Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're going to find ourselves being matched up the same with a lot of these, and I'm going to take Coastal.
Then on Saturday, the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl between Western Kentucky and Appalachian State. Give me Appalachian State. They cost me last week or 2 weeks ago, but they will not here. Yeah, and Sean's right. It was Devontae Smith that won it last year.
Wide receiver, yep. And Mark Ingram was another one. I think Mark was the other one from...
right. You're saying there's no music? Why is there no music this time?
Probably because you didn't click the share button.
It's on the same screen.
That's weird.
I'm sharing the screen, not the tab, and I don't know. I'll just close it. I don't give a shit.
Western Kentucky. I would love to say Western Kentucky, but I'm going to go Appalachia State there. So I think not knowing who all is going to be playing there with Appalachia State, that's going to be interesting. But I think that's the best matchup.
Can you hear the music now? I'm on the same tab that we were for primetime.
Well,
F StreamYard. Just whatever.
All right.
Close up.
Mark Henry, 2009. Derrick Henry, 2015. Devontae Smith, 2020. And Bryce
You mean
Young,
Mark Ingram? Mark Henry was a wrestler.
Yeah, Mark Ingram. That's what I meant. Mark Ingram.
Stupid StreamYard. I'm so mad. Let me share again. Just for fun. Share system audio. Share that. Get it off my damn screen. How about now? Can we hear it now? What? Why? Is it just because there's no music there for a little bit? and it just was like, screw it.
Oh,
Just thinking too much about sexual chocolate.
Listen,
Sean, I'm so glad you're hanging out.
Sean Garmer. It's been a long time, sir, but no, not him.
I'm getting our judge ready for the week, so just be prepared. I finally heard back from somebody.
I'm already winning it, so I don't know what you're talking about.
No, that's not true. Eric has been banned for a month from judging for picking you, so I like my chances. How about the Cricket Celebration Bowl? South Carolina State and Jackson State. Give me primetime, baby. Jackson State got the number 2 prospect in all the land, and they're going to win the bowl game.
That is the only reason why I'm watching this game. I want to see primetime coach and see what he can do. So give me primetime. So far, we've picked the same 4.
Yeah, it's getting boring, sir.
I know.
How about the PUBG Mobile New Mexico Bowl? Also on Saturday, Fresno State, 11.5-point favorites against UTEP. I don't know about either of them, but give me Fresno State.
Yeah, Fresno State, I think, is the main one. They're gonna. I think they got underrated. They should be playing a later bowl. So give me Fresno State.
All right, the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl, UAB versus BYU. I was a little hesitant to take BYU because UAB is not part of the Pac-12, and that's who BYU just runs over. So I'm going to take the Cougars. Give me BYU.
Yeah, BYU, I think, is in that same category as Fresno State. They got shunned a little bit. They need to be in one of the different bowls a little bit farther down where they put all the ranked teams. I think that needs to happen. So BYU, and I think it's more than 6.5 that they're going to win by.
All right, the Lending Tree Bowl between Liberty, who's a 9-point favorite, and Eastern Michigan. At some point, you have to take an underdog, so give me Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, I'm going to take the favorite right now. Liberty is favored by 9. I just think they're going to be too much for Eastern Michigan.
By the way, I hopefully everyone can hear this now, but I love the NCAA football team, just as an FYI. So yeah, our first pick different. Then the big one, the biggest bowl of all time, the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. The first time we're seeing that bowl. Oregon State, 7-point favorites against Utah State. I picked against the Aggies 2 weeks ago. I will not do it in the bowl game. Give me Utah State.
I don't understand why Oregon State is a 7.5-point favorite. It makes absolutely no sense to me. I think Utah's a lot better. If we were betting spreads, definitely I'm all over Utah, even if we were doing that. But I think Utah State's going to be way too much for Oregon State. So we're back on picking the same one.
All right, and I agree, Sean. Absolutely. That theme is number 1. So we got.
Listen,
what?
Listen, this next one though, I think you jumped on them because I took them a couple of weeks ago. I'm taking the Raging Cajuns in the New Orleans Bowl. Listen, number 23 taking on Marshall. I think you jumped on because I took the Cajuns a couple of weeks ago.
I took them just because I'm going to get on the Marshall bandwagon next year because Chad Pennington's baby brother or son or whoever it was is committed to him. I forget who it was, but there's a Pennington going to Marshall. So I have to get back on the Marshall bandwagon next year, but I will be taking Louisiana here. Then we move to Monday, the Myrtle Beach Bowl between Old Dominion and Tulsa. I swear, these bowls, top-notch, must-see TV. I don't care. Give me Old Dominion because I said their name first.
I'm going to take Tulsa. I think they're going to be the team. But I'm more excited that I don't get to see this one. I get to make it back. And we get to watch your favorite bowl at your favorite stadium on Tuesday at 12:30 noon. You're excited. I know you're excited for that one.
No. The famous Idaho Potato Bowl, 12:30 p.m. on Tuesday. Kent State and Wyoming. It's just Wyoming, I guess. Sure.
You like the blue turf. You love the blue turf.
I like it more than Eastern Washington's turf.
You love the red turf. You love it. You know it.
Absolutely
Come
not.
on.
I will refuse to watch any game on that turf.
Listen, I think that matchup is way too close. You had your picks in early. I decided I needed to extend the lead. Give me Kent State.
The lead. So we're looking at what? How many picks do we have different so far? 1, 2. So that's our third pick different out of 107 bowls that we picked. And the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl is the final one before our show next week. God, I hate these. This is torture. This is straight torture. It's like 20 minutes of torture on this show. UTSA is taking on number 24, San Diego State. Give me UTSA, because why the hell not?
I'm going with San Diego State. We saw what they could do. I'm excited to see what that ball club will do. So give me San Diego State in this one.
There are Eric's picks. Sean, I agree. Who can have the dumbest sponsor name for 500, please? Oh man, they are brutal. Absolutely brutal. So there you go. Those are our college football picks. And now let's get right into the draft because we got our guest here. We're going to have some fun with him. He has no idea what he's getting into. It's the first time, maybe even ever listening to the show. I don't know. Man's been busy. But my old friend, Jesse Knight. Jesse, man, what is happening?
Not a lot. I have listened here and there. I won't say I've caught a full episode. I
That's
do
all right.
live the busy life.
I haven't either. I have not watched a full episode either. Don't worry.
I mean, it's the same with the sports talk and all those. I don't watch unless I'm on it. Come on.
The only reason I watched what the sports show for the time spent poorly. I guess they don't really have a name. The only reason I watch them is to make fun of them every time I beat them in fantasy. So, which is 5-0 this year. Which I can't talk too much trash because I've lost 4 games this week and half of them were to this man right here. So that's how screwy fantasy is. But so you know, Jesse, we started last week with Eric Watkins. We've been doing these drafts now for what, 2.5 months?
About that, yep.
2 or 3 months or so. So one of us comes up with a sports-related draft idea. The other person will get the first pick. We're going to pick 3 rounds, and then you just tell us who wins. Because Robert was getting really upset with me and saying I was biased when I said I was 10-0 at one point.
Yeah, and you are very biased because I ran away with a few of those. Easily ran away.
And then unfortunately, Eric came in and picked Robert and has been banned from the show for a month. So just let you know that's how we play here.
I mean,
so Robert,
he is a Jets fan, so a 10-0 to a Jets fan is
that's like winning the Super Bowl.
We did it one time, and I was not around for it. It was one of these logos back here.
So Jesse, let's fill you in a little bit. The previous drafts, everything started with the best college helmets in the land. Randy thinks he got that. So we've went a lot of different varieties. We went from the best helmets, the best college mascots, to the worst MLB umpires, stadium food.
Nailed that one.
Best Major League Baseball call, most unimpressive undefeated records. People we were thankful for, athlete rivalries, and last week was bowl games, which I cleared the house. Just gotta say, I cleared the house on that, and I will win again this week.
All right, so tell Jesse what we're doing this week.
So what
is our draft this week?
So this week it was my turn to pick, and with our 2021 Heisman winner Bryce Young getting announced, I decided we're gonna do that. We're going to have the best. What is the best Heisman draft class? What is the top
draft class?
What is the 5 best Heisman winners? 5 best Heisman winners.
You don't even know how to count. We're doing 6 because we each get 3 picks.
Well,
it's just the best Heisman winners. And I have to clarify. I was under the belief, and I want to clarify before we get into our picks. We are only talking about their Heisman year, correct?
Right. Heisman year.
So it has nothing to do with their career in the NFL, whether they're a bust or not, or what they did. Okay. I just want to clarify so Jesse understands the rules that he is going by. And then because he gets to pick the topic, I get the number 1 pick. And God, this is not going to work. I'm going to be so mad when this does not work because the other music goes. Robert, please tell me if you can hear this. My first pick is in. So it's a draft. I had to do it. And I'm so glad that worked because the other music was making me really mad. Yeah, I feel it.
I already feel like I'm going to win. Thank you, Jesse. It's been a great night. Have a great one all.
My first pick is the obvious pick. 1988, Barry Sanders, Oklahoma State. Dude ran for 2,628 yards, 39 touchdowns. And that doesn't, 34 touchdowns for as far as the Heisman part goes. Then he goes for 222 yards and 5 touchdowns in the bowl game after the fact. Just to add to it. Sadly, those don't even count. It was a Holiday Bowl against Wyoming. So this is even before the 900 bowls that we have, and they still got stuck against Wyoming. My favorite stat that I saw, was it 37? I don't remember. You have to look it up. And the way they keep stats and bowls and everything is weird. But the stat that I saw that was completely insane to me, Barry Sanders in his Heisman Trophy season would have finished 7th in the NCAA in rushing this season by himself. I'm talking teams. He would have beat all but 6 teams by himself with what he did in 1988. So that's my first pick. All right, Robert.
Listen, I got to have a rebuttal to your one stat.
No, your pick is in and you got to go.
I'm going to stretch it out. Listen, you can't compare Barry Sanders in 1988 to what's happening now. It doesn't exist. So get off that bandwagon. Stat irrelevant. You cannot compare the two. Just
Absolutely
telling
not.
you right now.
All right, give me yours.
My number 2, I've got to go. I think he was probably the greatest rusher to play at USC. Give me 1981 running back, Marcus Allen. He was his senior year there.
Not even the best running back at USC.
I think you've been taking too much medicine tonight, haven't you?
I
know you don't
feel
a
lot of medicine. I've taken a lot of medicine.
He is the first running back to ever have 2,000 yards rushing in college. He was there. He is the only player to have a Heisman, to win the national title, to have the Super Bowl, to be a Super Bowl MVP, to be an MVP in the regular season.
Sadly, none of that matters except for his Heisman.
He had 2,400 yards rushing, 22 touchdowns, averaged over 5.5 yards a carry. Then he also caught the ball out of the backfield, 7.5 per catch. He rushed for over 200 yards in 8 of the 11 games in his senior year. Dude was money his senior year at USC. So, but I think the best one out of that is who he beat out in the draft class in the Heisman. He beat out the sophomore Herschel Walker. He beat out senior Jim McMahon and Dan Marino. So think of those 3 other people, and Marcus Allen beat him out.
Yeah, he's still the second best running back in USC history. Just so you know.
No.
The juice is loose.
Oh, the third. I forgot about the juice. I was just saying Reggie Bush because that's the only one that I saw live at college.
Juice is there, but I'd put him number 2 behind Marcus.
Reggie. All right, let's go to the second round. Stick with the running backs is the theme of this draft so far. 1976. Robert was alive. He was in high school, I think, at this point.
I was 2.
Tony Dorsett, Pittsburgh. Another 2,000-yard rusher. But that includes the bowl game. Obviously, it doesn't count as far as his Heisman stats, but include the bowl game. 2,150 yards, averaged 179 yards a game in his Heisman season, which is fantastic back in the mid-70s. And not only that, he led the Pittsburgh Panthers to a national championship, which I don't know if has ever happened before or since. So there you go. Tony Dorsett, my second pick. And Robert.
I'm going the next year, 1977, another running back from Texas. Give me probably one of the greatest running backs to come out of Texas. He's probably top 3, but how about Earl Campbell? Earl Campbell, over 1,700 yards, almost 1,750 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6.5 yards per carry. Texas was ranked number 1 most of the season. They finished the season 11-0, and their only loss came to Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl. So we're going old school, back and forth.
There was
You weren't even alive, so how can you pit Tony Dorsett? I was at least alive.
YouTube is a fantastic platform. All right, you want to talk about somebody? What was that?
And/or Wikipedia.
Yeah, or Wikipedia. I used some Wikipedia too, and a lot of sports news and Bleacher Report and ESPN. All right, let's go to my third pick, and you want to pick somebody that I was alive to watch. 2019 winner, Joe Burrow, LSU. All I have to say is 91%. Burrow won 91% of his Heisman votes the year he won. Greatest margin of victory ever in the history of the Heisman Award. And he beat out guys like your boy, Jonathan Taylor, who did. It's the first time all year he was not your player of the week, only because he's on bye. And Chase Young, who's been absolutely fantastic. So he beat out a very good class as well, both offense and defense. 78% completion percentage, absolutely phenomenal. Over 4,700 yards passing, 48 touchdowns, and only threw 6 picks. To me, possibly the greatest quarterback ever to play college football. And yes, it's recency biased, but the way college football is now, and the stats going ridiculously high, and points going off the boards, for him to win that much percent of the votes and just run away with it is very, very impressive. So, Robert, you got one last pick, sir.
Listen, I've been hard on this guy for the last couple weeks. I've been really hard on him. We've talked about him. And I even
messaged Jackson, I know.
Yeah. And I even messaged you and I said, Randy, I said, you know my pick. I'm between 2 guys in this last pick.
Mm-hmm.
And you called exactly one of them.
Yeah.
You actually called both of them.
Tebow. No. Don't be a chicken.
I leaned that way, but I didn't want to upset Pam. But give me Superman, Cam Newton, 48 touchdowns. We'll talk about that. 20 of them with his own legs running into the end zone. Mm-hmm. First quarterback to rush over 1,400 yards, 20 touchdowns. He had 28 touchdowns through the air, throwing the ball almost 2,600 yards. SEC Offensive Player of the Year 2010, AP Player of the Year. He led his team to an undefeated season, 14-0. He beat South Carolina. He beat Oregon. He even beat out in the Heisman Andrew Luck, LaMichael James, and Kellen Moore.
Anybody even remember who LaMichael James is?
And I'm going to say, I hate, as much as I've been on Cam over the last few years. Let me tell you, the other 2 names on that list that was in talks was Andrew Luck. Besides Andrew Luck was Colin Kaepernick and Andy Dalton was also, by the way, in talks during that season of the 2010 season.
That's fine. I just want you to understand how much you just lost this by bringing up LaMichael James. I asked.
He was in the panel. Top 4.
Listen, I asked to this panel if anybody knows who LaMichael James is. Jesse shook his head no. He was drafted by his team.
He drafted by the 49ers. I know that he played for the 49ers.
Okay, I'm just saying. But even the 49er went, yeah, we don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I'd rather forget that and act like we didn't draft him. But I know that he was drafted there, yes.
All right.
And then I think after us, he played for Miami for a little bit. Yep. But.
All right, so there it is. My draft team of Heismans: Barry Sanders, Tony Dorsett, Joe Burrow for Hagen. And there you go. He's got the pictures up now. Marcus Allen, Earl Campbell, and Cam Superman Newton. Jesse, you got a tough one on your hands. Which team would you rather have?
Oh, yeah. Tough one here. Let's see. So
Also in the comments,
There's
Eric and Sean, if you're still watching, or anybody else, I want to know your winners too. But
there's
is the pick that matters.
Yeah, they're so even. Like Sanders, Allen, you went across and went even. Burrow, Newton, just so different of quarterbacks. Burrow has the legs, but Newton obviously was known as more of the. But then when you get to Sanders and Allen, I really was hoping for like a wild card of like a Desmond Howard or a Charles Woodson or something like that to really throw me off here.
Listen, I'm already gonna say this, Eric. You're gonna ban yourself for another month if you come up with comments like this. Just saying.
Burrow definitely best Heisman quarterback, probably best season ever for a college quarterback to date, and there's definitely some recency there, and it's becoming more and more of a passing game. But there, I would Dorsett, Campbell. I would lean towards Campbell a little bit there. I mean, the numbers that he put up that season, the yards per carry, the yards per reception, and then top line, I gotta go Sanders, Barry Sanders. So overall, I'm gonna lean slightly in the Randy direction and award it as painfully as
and
this
the best part
seem.
is, with Eric puts it on there, that counts as 2 wins. So it's fantastic. And I didn't even have to do the brown nosing that I had prepared when I was messaging a bunch of people to see who wanted to go. Oh, what the heck?
That's what I'm just wondering.
Breaking news, Urban Meyer is out. We were just talking about this.
Hey, maybe he can go coach in one of the Fiesta Locos, Tacos, Doritos bowls and make it back in time for that.
Yeah, Adam Schefter reports. What was this? 2 minutes ago, Urban Meyer is out as Jaguars head coach. Crazy. Breaking news here on the R&R Sports Report, thanks to Eric Watkins. And I think Richie just sent me the exact same thing. Let's see.
Listen, Jesse, I think we need to reevaluate, and we need to maybe bring you back in to. Maybe we need to get a panel and just throw up all the old pictures of each week, and actually have a vote. Get us a judge, get Jesse and Eric and get them. Let's look at each of them side by side and get a true vote, because
Jesse's busy. We don't need to go back through. I'm 10-0. It's all right. That's totally fine. Jesse, thank you so much for making me 11-1 on the year. And again, I was going to bring up before the breaking news that my brown nosing was only one of us on this panel picks San Francisco to go to the Super Bowl in the preseason, and it was the guy that you picked to win. So I didn't even need to use that. I had the trump card all ready to go and didn't even need to use it. It's just how good my draft was. And thank you, sir, so much for that. So we're gonna have to get you on again and to be a guest again and be able to talk some more sports, especially if San Francisco can continue hanging on into the playoffs and have you do another judging as well. Maybe we do the panel idea once we get a couple judges in and have a couple of you on and just keep having fun with it. But thank you so much for hanging out with us for a few minutes and picking the correct person.
My pleasure. And I'll try not to next time. I'll lean towards a little bit better, less schmoozy pick, maybe.
All right. And just like that, Jesse bans himself again. So it's just once you start seeing, no, I'm just kidding. Jesse, thank you, man. All right, so there you go. That's our draft again. Those are fun. I like having a judge on and just adding a little bit of extraness to it. We have a good time with it and be able to trash talk. And
so listen,
I think we pick on each other a lot more when we have a judge that we're trying to impress.
I think you're 100% right. But listen, you've picked the last two, so maybe we need to determine that. If you make the selection, if you make the suggestion, the other guy gets to bring in the judge. So like
You've been
this week,
trying to get guests on this show, and you're one of 5. So
let me tell you,
we're
I
supposed to
got
have a guest this week, so we could have used him. But
I did, and I got dogged. He's watching basketball. He was at a coaching another basketball game tonight. So,
but no, I'm fine. If you want to bring people in, I literally start messaging people when the show starts, just to see if anybody wants to hop on. And Jesse was nice enough to do it. Sean, who's been messaging, said he would love to do it. He just doesn't know a ton about Heisman stuff. Same thing with Harry from the kickoff. He doesn't know a ton about Heisman's and didn't want to pick it there. And I don't want to use Eric back to back, but if Jesse wasn't able to do it, we would have had him hop on because he's been a big part of the show.
Yep.
And so I don't care who comes on as long as we have fun with it. And I honestly think with the judges, it kind of adds an extra bit to that segment, and we have fun with it. Let's move on to
I want to throw a couple honorable mentions that we didn't talk about.
Okay.
And I kind of on that draft and I thought about it a little bit, and I almost went Roger Staubach. What do you think about Roger? I mean, he had some great numbers. I don't know if I would put him. I don't think out of who we picked, I think we do have the top 6 there, 3 apiece. I don't think Roger falls far out of the top in past the top 10. I think Roger Staubach was a great innovator for the quarterback that is now. Honorable mention there. Also, you have to say Herschel Walker. He had some unbelievable years, and then also the other guy that I wanted to pick, and you kind of picked on him, but Tim Tebow. He look at his college numbers.
You possibly would have won if you better pick Tebow. Just saying.
I don't know. I think you look at numbers between the two. I think you had a little bit better numbers with Cam than you did Tebow.
Yeah, but Tebow is so much more polarizing, for sure. All right, let's move on to some other sports as we get ready to wrap up this late night edition of the show. Let's go to the NBA, which you are still up by 8.5. Excuse me, 8.5 games in our 5-team drafts, thanks to the Suns and the Warriors God, I can't breathe. Continuing to dominate. But the bigger news: Steph Curry breaking the all-time 3-point mark as he passes Ray Allen's 2,973. He hit 5 against my Knicks last night. 2 questions for you. Is he the greatest shooter in NBA history? And is he the most influential NBA player of all time?
Wow. I don't know if you can put him in influential. I mean, I love to watch that guy shoot the ball. Yeah, and what he can do anywhere on the court. I mean, he can play any position. Watching his highlights from, I want to say, I think it was Sunday's highlights or Monday's highlights game where he played, him getting around screens to hit a couple of those 3-pointers in that game. He just looks like he has a good time flowing around the ball. And if he could find a healthy team, there's no reason why he can come up with another 1 or 2 more championships.
To me, honestly, the answer to both of those is yes. I've never seen a more smooth shooter, and I grew up with Reggie Miller, who I grew up hating because he would just crush the Knicks. Ray Allen, obviously fantastic as well, but Steph Curry just makes it look so smooth. And as far as the most influential, you could possibly say Michael Jordan, as popular as he was in the 90s. But Steph Curry's changed the game. Absolutely changed the game. How many times do we see high schoolers just jacking up threes or doing those quick 3-point shots? We see that all the time now. It's the NBA game has become unwatchable because of Steph Curry, because everyone plays that style of quick threes and iso ball.
Eric Watkins brings up a good question. Now, it's so intriguing. What would be more important in the moment? Breaking the record or getting 3,000?
I think breaking the record, obviously being the first to hit 3,000, which I'm sure he will do by Christmas at this point, will be a nice even number to hit, but you're not going to have Reggie Miller and Ray Allen there for his 3,000th like they were last night for him breaking the record. Obviously, those milestone moments like Tom Brady hitting 700 touchdown passes is great, but you're going to get a lot more notoriety when you pass somebody for that top spot.
So, and I'm not gonna, because you and I really don't talk a lot of professional basketball, even off camera or off the show or anything like that, because it's just not our forte. And and I don't mean this question and this statement as a derogatory stab at this person or anything like that, but from what I remember of Reggie Miller, I don't find him being that kind of a player that I would draw myself to watch or anything like that. Maybe
He
it's
was so
just not.
clutch. Now that I've gotten a distance from his playing time, man was clutch for sure. That's why I hated him in the '90s, because he would just come out with some ridiculous ways to beat the Knicks. A big trash talker as well.
Mhm.
So if you're into that, that's always fun as well.
I mean,
and he played in the '90s where they were a lot more physical.
right,
Right? If he
the-
had the space that Steph Curry can have, and nobody could hand check him at the 3-point line, I don't think Steph Curry has reached the record yet.
right, and that's the thing. As I've never gotten into a lot of it. I'm a huge Jordan fan. And maybe it's just because of where he came from and built himself up. But I remember watching, and you said earlier than the '80s or earlier in the '90s, it was a lot more physical. For me, it was that matchups it was the Celtics and it was the Lakers. When those guys went against each other, man, it was physical every time.
For sure.
It was the Detroit Pistons, Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas, Bill Laimbeer, those guys just being extremely physical. So, I mean, I guess that's where I fail a little bit. I'm not 100% on board with the Reggie Miller, but I mean,
Yeah,
not
just go
getting
back
to
and watch
him.
There's a lot of YouTube stuff out there. I watch it sometimes just to make myself feel sad of what Reggie Miller does to the Knicks. And actually, another point as far as Eric Watkins' comment, I think obviously like 3,000 for hits is such a big thing, because you're never ever going to see anybody break the record for hits. So then hitting those milestones become bigger. But when the record becomes obtainable, I think breaking the record is much more important than hitting the even numbers, even though that even number is higher than what the record is. And who knows? He could hit 4,000 by the time he decides to retire if he can stay healthy enough. Let's get into some other sports that don't get enough airtime. Look at the NHL. And last I looked, the Kraken were getting their butts kicked. Let me see what the score is right now. Yeah, they lose 4-1 to Anaheim. So that's not good for my standings, but I still have you by 18 points right now, as the Maple Leafs and Panthers and Wild all doing great for me. Lightning and Hurricanes doing okay for you, but you do have the Islanders, who are definitely struggling. So that's where we stand there. We'll skip over PGA because we're running out of time. Did you get to watch any of the CFL game?
I did not get to what I ended up watching more of the golf than I did the CFL. So I've been trying to find videos to go back and watch it and watch some highlights, but I have not had. Like I said, our away from the show schedule has just been so nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Winnipeg ends up winning that in overtime. So I need to see the highlights of this still. They win that one 33-25. So they have won back-to-back cups. I do believe that Eric had picked that. ESPN Plus, he does believe. So I have to watch the highlights there. I want to bring up, and I forgot to message you, so unfortunately we won't have the conversation that I wanted to, but this will be your homework, and we can have a discussion off air. But Formula One had their final race of the season, and there was controversy all over the place at Abu Dhabi. I didn't watch this one live because it's so early in the morning on Sunday, and I'm getting ready for football. But I watched the highlights throughout the day and saw some of the controversy, talked about it. And I was going to have you look it up and get your thoughts on it. But Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen were basically tied, or were tied, for the championship lead in the final race. And they don't do a playoff system like NASCAR. It just happened to be that close. And they both are starting up front for the final race of the season. They touched going into one of the early corners. Lewis just dives off and cuts this giant corner and decides to back off and let Max get up near him, but doesn't let him pass. And usually you have to give up your spot or you get penalized for it. And the race control went, we're good. So then Lewis was able to pull away, looked like he was going to dominate the race. You get a late safety car, which is basically a yellow flag in NASCAR. And with a couple laps to go, so Verstappen goes ahead and pits and gets new tires, because he was thinking they might be a 1 or 2 lap shootout, and tires are super important in Formula One. Hamilton stayed out to stay out in front. And usually, right before the safety car leaves, the lap before, they let the guys a lap down get a lap back and get them out of the way so that the main guys can lead. And usually, they'll let them go by, and then they wait a lap, and then they get the race going. Well, with about a lap and a half left, they only let the lap cars that were between Verstappen and Hamilton go. And then with 1 lap to go, they just went, even though they had just taken off a second ago, just trying to get that last lap in. So, because they don't have overtime or anything in Formula One, so they can't go, hey, we're going to just have a 1 lap shootout no matter what. But they have to end it at that time. And now all of a sudden you had Hamilton and Verstappen next to each other. Verstappen on brand new tires, Hamilton on really old tires. Verstappen end up running away with it there at the end. But crazy way to end that season, especially with no playoffs, but for them still to come down to the final race and basically the final lap. So if you have not seen those highlights, I very much suggest it. The radio is hilarious. Like the Hamilton team is just losing their minds, yelling at race control. No, you have to restart that last lap. It's unfair. You did this completely wrong. And the race control basically went, guys, we went racing. This is racing. So we went racing. And that was it. It was like just this weird snide comment that they threw back at him. So again, if you have not seen the CFL like we have not, go check out the Grey Cup. It looks like it was a fantastic game. Go check out the highlights for that last Formula One race. Get into more sports. Get a variety in your life and have fun with it. But now, sir, it is this time for this week in sports history.
Well, I'm hoping that Eric is sticking around because I think he might get my bonus question. We'll find out here in just a couple minutes. But here is your this week's in history. No, not more sports like soccer. No, Eric. We like the other football.
Too far.
Yeah.
Soccer has gone too far. I would get into soccer if there wasn't 743 leagues in Europe alone.
Exactly.
It gets really confusing to me. I'm too stupid.
We got Winter Olympics coming up. We're going to have to start getting them Winter Olympics. I'm excited to watch some curling.
Yes, curling all the way. How dare you disrespect the Tacoma Stars? Curling. We're going to have some curling breakdowns on the show.
I love watching that. That one has become one of my new favorite ones in the Winter Olympics. So this week in sports history, from the 8th of December to the 15th, 1922, Pete Henry makes the longest known NFL drop kick field goal of 45 yards. 1951, Joe DiMaggio announces his retirement. 1956, the Dodgers trade Jackie Robinson to the Giants for pitcher Dick Littlefield for $35,000. But Robinson decides he's going to retire. You don't see anybody for $35,000. What I would like to know what the rate difference would be. What $35,000 in 1956 was to what it is now. The worth would be different. It'd be interesting to know that.
Eric, help us out.
1976, QB Joe Namath last game as a New York Jet was on the 12th of December. 1978, the first game of women's pro basketball, the WBL. The Chicago Hustle against the Milwaukee Does. Chicago wins that one, 92-87. 1987, Larry Bird ends his streak of 59 consecutive free throws made. In 2007, the Mitchell Report comes out that names 89 Major League Baseball players that have used steroids. That report comes out. Notable players on that list included Roger Clemens and Miguel Tejada. 2011, the NBA and the Players Union reached a financial agreement after a 161-day lockout. 2012, Juan Manuel Marquez knocked out Manny Pacquiao in round 6 for the lightweight title. And in 2018, German basketball forward Dirk Nowitzki takes out the court for his 21st NBA season with the Dallas Mavericks, surpassing Kobe Bryant 20 seasons with the Lakers for the most seasons played with one team.
All right, sir. Stump me.
I'm hoping I do, but it's not super hard. But it'll be a name I think you will get. I
Okay.
did talk about the longest drop kick to be made. Who was
Okay.
the last one that scored a drop kick 4 points?
Flutie.
Good job.
Yeah.
Very good job.
It was like his last. It was either his last season or his last game. But
It
the
was
Patriots let him do it.
It was in the Patriots, January 1st, 2006. I figured I probably went easy on you, but yeah.
Appreciate it.
How often do you ever see a drop kick?
Not very often. It was like
very rare.
it was what 15 years ago now. Did you had a bonus one?
No, that was the only one. That was the one I figured I was gonna. It's the giving season. I'm giving a little bit of love of, making it easy for you.
Well, I appreciate it. I thought you were needing Eric because it was going to be so difficult, and then here you are.
I figured he'd roll that one
handing
out.
me a gift. He did. He nailed it too. Eric, not surprisingly, got it right. All right, so that is going to do it for the latest R&R Sports Report we've ever recorded. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us, Eric and Sean, in the chat. Haley was on a couple times. Lois, as always, had popped on as well. Thank you, Jesse Knight, for coming on and being our judge this week. We are now 1-1 as far as the judges go. Keep in mind USFL. God, are we still doing that? Whatever happened to the XFL? Is that ever coming back with The Rock? I don't know. So I got to come up with a draft idea for next week. I will let you know soon, Mr. Hagan, and then you can come up with your judge, since we could do it that way. XFL 2023. So there you go there. So yeah, I'll come up with something. We'll have some fun with it.
Well,
but
maybe you should think about it because we know our guests for next week that'll be joining us. So we'll be on regular time, but we can get him to guest judge for us.
We can't have him be the guest judge because we're going to spend 30 minutes on how horrible Idaho not having a shot clock is.
Yes, I plan on bringing that up.
It's just, you know how hard it is calling Lewiston basketball and not going on that rant every single game. I'll joke about it all the time, especially when Pendleton boys had 4 different possessions that went over a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the same thing happened. The same thing happened last night. Even though the game was locally closer to us, we were the away team. Moscow was the home team, so we had to play Idaho rules. So no shot clock, and the best one, as you know, the scorekeeper for Clarkson, for the girls, Leanne Hill, they actually made her wear referee stripes at the table. And so
you have to do that if you are.
Don't have to do that in Washington. You have to do it in Idaho. So
you have to do that for LCSC too.
Yeah. So
it's who knows. It's I'm not going to pick it because it would be too tough for me to come up. But maybe it's the top 3 worst rules in sports that we need to do. It'd be pretty interesting. But yeah, regular time next week, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific. Oh man, I almost made it through the end without coughing. I'm sorry. It feels like somebody is like stepping on my chest every couple minutes, and it's just absolutely brutal. So I'm gonna go take some stuff. But yeah, Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time. We'll be back on our normal time for one of the few times that we'll be able to do it. My January right now, unless Lewiston or unless the radio show allows me to go on the road with Lewiston, is going to be pretty cleared up. I think the Bengals only have like 1 or 2 home games in January plus the Golden Throne. So mine is pretty open at the moment, but there's a lot of road games if they change their mind that could mess things up. And I know Robert's schedule is a complete mess. So again, throughout the month of December and January, we're just going to roll with whatever we can do to get you a weekly show. And I thank you guys so much for being patient and flexible with us and still getting on and chatting with us and having a good time. But for now, that's Robert. I'm Randy. I'm going to go take some more medicine. But for now, we are